We've been doing some cool experiments in science about what we're going to eat in the future. Some people think we'll just eat the same things as now, but I disagree. I mean, just think of all the tasty food that our grandparents didn't have.
What are you up to, Yasmin?
Me? Nothing. But you're wearing that eye mask.
What? Why?
It's a taste test. Some of the most exciting modern research is about how we use all our senses when we taste. You see, scientists say the lines between the senses are blurred, so we eat with our eyes, our nose, even our ears, as well as our mouths when we taste. And you're going to test the theory.
Okay, but you're not putting food up my nose.
I won't.
It's not going to be something very spicy, is it? Or something rotten or sour?
You'll see. So, what is it?
I haven't got a clue. It's quite smooth. Is it like a wet potato?
A wet potato? No, it's melon.
Seriously? Seeing is believing, I guess, but I did not expect that.
Exactly. What we see is so important, which brings me on to dish number 2. What taste do you think this dish will have?
It looks sweet and sticky, like a dessert. Oh, that's gross. It's really salty.
Right, the colour confused you. We connect different colours to different tastes, and we expect food that is a pale pink or a vivid red to be sweet. So it's a surprise when it isn't. Ready for the last experiment?
Don't give me something salty again.
This time, you just have to say what the difference is between these 2 cups of coffee while wearing these. I'll play a different sound while you drink each cup. Ready? Go.
Whoa, that's deafening.
Sorry.
That's better. This one is quite bitter.
Now try the other one.
Yeah, I definitely prefer this one. It's sweeter.
Shall I tell you what the difference is?
Far away.
There isn't any. It's the same coffee.
So it's just the sound that's different. Okay, your senses obviously make a huge difference. But can you promise me one thing?
What's that?
Don't make me eat this again. Please.
I won't. I promise.
Hey Joe, Lena and I are visiting the Futuro Life exhibition on Saturday. Do you want to come?
Sounds interesting. What's it about?
Well, basically it's about how they think technology will change home life. There's a presentation at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning about entertainment devices and the home that I really want to see, but there are lots of other things.
Is there going to be anything about cooking?
Well, they're going to do a demonstration of the kitchen of the future.
Perhaps they'll give us something to eat.
I don't know about that, but they are going to talk about food of the future. I've read the programme and I'm sure it's going to be interesting.
OK, I'll come. It's this Saturday the 4th, right?
Yeah.
How are you getting there?
Well, it's at the London Exhibition Centre and it starts at 9 o'clock. So we're catching the 8 o'clock train to Victoria Station.
OK, I'll see you both at the station at 10 to 8.
Great. See you then.
Hey there. Here's a message for all our listeners who are under 40. You might live forever. At least that is what futurologists think. I'm Linton Johnson. This is Future Worlds.
Humans have a great interest in the future. Although we have a lot of scientific information, we still listen to people who promise they can predict our futures.
We're listening to futurologist Lena Novak. Lena works at the Future Community, an organisation that looks at what is going to happen in the future. International companies and media organisations buy information from the future community so they can make plans.
Of course, we can make mistakes, especially when we talk about 50 years from now. But when we talk about what we think will happen in the next 5 or 10 years, we're usually 85% correct.
That's why when futurologists claim that at least one person alive in 2020 will be alive in 2150, we wanted to hear more.
Nobody wants to live as a 90-year-old forever, going to the doctors for checkups and examinations all the time. People want to live forever in good physical and mental condition, and they'll soon be able to do that. Science will allow people to change old parts of the body for new ones.
Those are the words of Professor Bernard Abelman from the Future Health Institute.
There may be other possibilities too. You might transfer your brain to a computer and live in a virtual world online. You could live forever online. Then we will be able to connect our brains to android bodies all over the world. So, if you are in London but want to visit the Amazon rainforest, you will be able to use an android body in Brazil and go on your trip.
This might sound like science fiction, but Novak and Abelman think that these new ways of living will be here soon. But if they are, how will that affect the way we behave? Here's writer Paul Taylor.
Science gives us new technology without thinking about how it will change society. However, a few writers have written about societies where people live forever, and it's not always positive. In one story, the characters become lazy because they know they will always have time to do things. They give up eating well and doing exercise because they know they will always live. There is also a population problem because there are still babies, but nobody dies.
So, if you're under 40, you might live forever. But will you want to? Future Worlds is created by Ira Williams and me, Linton Johnson.
Emma.
I thought what she said about asking for help was really interesting. I hate asking for help. I feel it makes me look weak, but I realise it's not like that at all. In fact, as she said, we all need help now and then. Also, she said that most people like to help. So the next time I have a problem, or if something is getting me down, I'll speak to someone. But not just anyone. I'll choose a good listener, or someone who maybe has a bit of experience, someone who has gone through the same situation.
Frank.
The main thing that I got from the talk was how to deal with the negative thoughts that we sometimes have about ourselves by changing them to positive ones. Of course, we all have to be honest about our abilities, but sometimes I'm too negative about what I can do. I put myself down, I think I'm not as good as other people, but I am. There are always going to be people that are really, really good at certain things, but I need to remember that I'm just as good as the others, or at least I can be if I'm more positive about myself.
Upma.
I have to admit that I hate speaking in public. So it was interesting to hear that we can deal with our fears of social situations by imagining ourselves doing them successfully. The speaker also said we should role-play the situation we fear at home. Act in front of a mirror or with someone you trust. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll try and get over my fear by giving a speech at home. Well, I think I should try it out.
We don't realise it, but our eating habits are changing. In my town, more and more fast food restaurants have been opened, but so have health food shops too. Farmers' markets have been opened and are also becoming more popular. Lots of people say it's better for the planet to buy food that has been produced locally, and more local farm produce is being sold at these markets. At my school, our menus for lunch were changed last year. We are being given much more choice of fruit and vegetables and less fast food. Healthy veggie burgers are also on the menu. I wonder what we'll be eating in 10 years' time.
What have you ordered?
Avocado on toast. It's really tasty and healthy too. I love it.
Really good for you, but terrible for the planet.
What do you mean by terrible for the planet?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there is some food that we shouldn't eat because it has a bad effect on the environment.
Why do you think that? I don't think my avocado on toast is going to destroy the planet.
Well, a lot of things that are considered healthy come from the other side of the planet. And...
Yeah, but I'm not convinced that...
I'm sorry, but I haven't finished.
Sorry.
And bringing them here causes pollution. In some cases, they're also bad for the environment. For example, farmers in some countries cut down tropical rainforests so they've got enough land to grow the fruit and vegetables that we want.
Oh dear, you've made me feel guilty now.
And they come in lots of individual plastic bags too.
Actually, I've got something to say about that as well. A lot of these health foods are just a fashion that will soon disappear. If we eat more locally produced food, the environment benefits, and so do local farmers.
To be honest, I agree with you both. But, you know, I honestly didn't know anything about where avocados come from. The media should inform us better.
I agree up to a point, but it's also our responsibility to find out where the food we eat comes from.
I completely agree.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the vlog. We're back again, and today we're talking about travel.
Now, is it just me, or is everyone obsessed with travelling these days? Every time I go online, all I see are people who can't stop posting about going backpacking in India, seeing the sights in Europe, or staying at a luxury resort.
And then there are so many photos of tourists meeting local people and experiencing local culture all over the world.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love travelling. But flying all over the world adds huge amounts of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. And it's really expensive too. Paying for travel, booking accommodation, they're all things that cost money. A lot of money.
But there are so many other ways to experience different cultures. You don't need to book tickets or make reservations. You don't even need to go abroad. Just set off on a journey down your local shopping street where you can find places that sell bread from Poland, sweets from Turkey, and cheese from Italy.
And then there are the restaurants. Chinese, Italian, Greek, French, Indian, and many, many more. So, if you're looking for international cuisine, just explore the local area. Samosa?
Nice one. As well as food, there's art. Most of our museums and galleries have artwork from all over the world, like pottery from China or paintings from Italy.
And in the cinema, you can watch films from the USA, India, or anywhere.
And you don't even need to leave the house. You can read books about every country in the world, from Albania to Zambia.
You can even tour some of the world's most famous sites using virtual reality. Want to see the pyramids? With a VR headset, you've already arrived at your destination.
We don't want to go on about this, but if you want to find out about different countries and cultures, chances are there's plenty to discover in your area.
So get out there and get exploring.
This is a country with many incredible sights to see across 2 islands. including mountains, lakes, rainforests and beautiful beaches. For tourists interested in history, Rotorua is the best place to experience the traditional culture of the Maori people. They first arrived on boats from the South Pacific over 700 years ago. A great way to meet local people is to watch a game of rugby, the country's national sport. It's an exciting game, and the national team, the All Blacks, are the world's best, and the players are the biggest sports stars in the country. For tourists whose first love is the cinema, why not make a reservation on a Lord of the Rings tour and visit the studio and locations where the films were made? Finally, no visit to this beautiful country is complete without a trip to the Taupo volcanic zone. It's a unique area which is home to 3 active volcanoes.
One of the most important lessons we can learn when we experience different cultures is that what is normal behaviour in one culture might be rude in another. It doesn't mean that one culture is right and one is wrong, or one is more civilised or better. They're just different. Our beliefs, language, everyday habits and expressions are all part of our culture. And this is something we need to think about when we go abroad and meet local people from other countries. For example, hand gestures and how we greet people are different around the world. In many Western cultures, kissing someone on the cheek is a common way to greet someone. In the UK, it's unusual to do this with people you don't know very well. And in some countries, for example China, this is not acceptable. What you should and shouldn't do when you go into someone's home also changes from country to country. In many parts of the world, it is a custom to remove your shoes when you enter someone's home. It shows respect to your host and their home. But in many countries, it's perfectly normal to wear shoes inside. Different cultures also have very different attitudes to animals. In many Middle Eastern cultures, dogs are seen as dirty and should not be in the home, while in the USA and many European cultures, dogs are man's best friend and a part of the family. They live, eat and sleep in the family home. The more we travel, live and work abroad, the more important it is for us to understand that everyone's culture is different. And these differences are an opportunity to learn.
It was really crowded, but what do you expect? It's one of the most famous tourist attractions in the world. I didn't expect it would be quiet. The walk along it was really interesting, and the views of China are breathtaking. I may not come again, but I'm really glad that I've seen it.
I mean, this is meant to be the centre of the most glamorous industry in the world, but when you actually get there, it's just really depressing. There are a few big cinemas, but they're nothing extraordinary. And apart from that, just lots of awful tourist shops. I don't know why anyone would bother going there. I'm used to much nicer places where I'm from. We were also warned about exploring the area at night, as it can be quite dangerous. And the hotel doesn't feel like the 5-star ones I usually stay in.
I mean, we were in Paris, so we thought we should go and see it. The museum itself is extraordinary, sure, but it's almost impossible to see the painting. It's just surrounded by people taking selfies. I mean, this is the most famous painting in the world, and all people want to do is take selfies. Ugh, so frustrating. I find tourists so annoying. What a joke. So, we decided to do this walk, which was organised by a company out there. And I'm so pleased we did. It wasn't at all disappointing. There were 8 of us in the group, which was a good number, plus the guides, who were brilliant. It was just so well organised. A lot of people complain about it being crowded on the mountains, but we didn't think so. On the way, we met plenty of local people, and when you get there, the views are breathtaking. Unforgettable, really.
Hello.
Hello, can I help you?
I'm interested in finding out more about the Outback Experience Tour.
Yes, of course. How can I help?
Can you tell us if transport is included in the price?
Yes, it is. The tour guide picks you up from your hostel or hotel in the city.
That's really useful.
What about accommodation? Do you think we should book a hotel?
No, you'll be camping in tents in a different place each night in the outback.
That sounds great.
What happens if it rains?
Don't worry, the tents are waterproof.
What clothes would you recommend?
Comfortable clothes to walk in, and you should bring something warm to wear in the evening.
Could you be more specific?
Sure. Long trousers for walking in, good walking boots, a fleece or sweater, and a jacket.
That's good to know.
Can we go swimming on the trip? And should we bring a swimsuit?
No, there won't be any water nearby.
Could you repeat that, please?
You won't be near any water on the tour.
That's a shame.
One last question. Is it possible to cancel the reservation once it's made?
You can't cancel it, but you can change the dates.
Thanks a lot for your help.
You're welcome. Would you like me to book you a place now?
Yes, there are 2 of us.
If you're not a great fan of air travel but still want to see the world, how about taking a train journey instead? I've always loved travelling by rail, and there are some amazing routes to discover in every continent. Last autumn, I decided to take a trip on the Trans-Siberian Railway. It's a great opportunity to travel across Russia in a more unusual way. It was an amazing journey that took 6 nights and covered over 9,000 kilometers, starting from Moscow and traveling east towards Vladivostok, near the border with China. Before I began my train journey, I spent a few days exploring the capital city. There's so much to see there,
especially if you're interested in history and art. One day I took a 3-hour walking tour, followed by a boat trip on the Moskva River. In the evening, I had dinner at a traditional restaurant, then enjoyed a concert. The next morning, my adventure really began. I was surprised at how comfortable the train was. My accommodation was incredibly clean, and it even had air conditioning, although the lack of a shower might be a problem for some travellers. The food in the restaurant car was excellent, and there was a good range of food to choose from, with plenty of vegetarian options. The restaurant is a great place to meet people too. Lots of Russians use the train for shorter trips. The train stops several times a day for about 10 or 20 minutes to let people on and off, and it's a good opportunity for a short walk at the same time. I loved having the chance to chat to some locals. It's a good idea to learn a few phrases in Russian, and I also found that having a map was a great way to start a conversation about my journey. I saw some truly amazing things on the route. One of my favourite landmarks was the bridge at Novosibirsk. It takes the railway line over the Ob River, and it's nearly 1 kilometre in length. The scenery was wonderful as well. We crossed the Ural Mountains and went through the incredible Siberian forest. But for me, the highlight was passing Lake Baikal. It's the largest freshwater lake in the world, and its blue waters are simply breathtaking. You can take this trip at any time of the year. Of course, you'll need plenty of warm clothes if you go in the winter, including snow boots and a warm coat. What else should you take? I'd suggest a few good books, but there are plenty of other things to do, like playing chess and making new friends. But you'll probably find you spend most of your time looking out of the window.
Hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today we're talking rubbish.
Speak for yourself.
I mean the rubbish on our streets, in our rivers, and in our parks. This kind of litter is everywhere.
And now we're doing something about it. And it's all because of this guy. His name's Jamal, and he's a legend. He noticed that his local park was full of rubbish, especially plastic waste. But he said that he couldn't just wait for the local politicians to do something about the issue. So he decided to take it on himself.
He started Jamal's Teen Park Clean, a campaign that encourages teenagers to get together and pick up litter in their local parks. It began with only a few volunteers, but that has changed. I checked the website recently, and it said that hundreds of teenagers had now started their own groups all over the country. He's turned a small volunteer group into a national youth movement.
And it has now become popular internationally too. Young people all over the world are helping to fight the plastic waste crisis. And we want to lend a hand. So, I'm going to set up a teen park clean right here in our local town. Are you happy to volunteer, Yasmin?
You bet. I'm keen to do my bit. But, Where do we start?
That was exactly my question. So, I contacted Jamal and he talked me through the steps he'd taken to get started. So, the first thing Jamal said was that we would need to raise awareness. To do that, we'll need a lot of assistance. So first, we should find volunteers. And then we need to get the word out. We can do this through social media, the local press, even posters at school. Everything helps. Then Jamal pointed out that we needed to raise money for equipment. He said that his team had worked with local charities to do some fundraising and that it had gone really well. The money they raised meant that they could easily get what they needed. They even had money left over, which they gave as a donation to a poverty and unemployment relief fund. Finally, Jamal's advice was to just get started. Once you've got the volunteers and the equipment, there's no excuse. I've done steps 1 and 2, so Saturday, 3 p.m. in the park. Are you up for it?
Just try and stop me.
I'm trying to be greener, and so are my family. At home, we recycle everything that we can. I've also become a volunteer in a group that is trying to clean up the local river. I joined last month, and so far we have organised a clean-up of a park next to the river. Next, we'll have a fundraising event so we can buy a special net to catch rubbish here in the river. I feel we're doing something useful, and I'm enjoying it too.
OK, listen up everybody. Today we're going to plan our communications campaign, and I need your input on this. So, everybody in their teams, please. Right, the first thing we need is a mission statement. Now, our mission statement will tell people who we are, what we're doing, and why. So, think about the best way to communicate this message. I also want you to think about our clear goals. We need to have clear aims that people think they can help us achieve. Everybody knows that the problem of people living on the streets is a big challenge for society. And we obviously can't solve it on our own. But we can do something. What? Now, the next thing I want you to think about is our target audience. Who are we asking to help us? If we try to involve all the public, it won't work. We need to focus on 1 or 2 groups and think about what those groups can offer. So, yeah, if we need energy and physical help, then young people would be a good target. But if we want financial donations, we need to contact older people or even businesses. OK, next up, I want to talk about communication and our target audience. If we want young people to be involved, then an advertisement in a printed newspaper isn't going to work.
So, successful communication is about choosing the best media for the people we want to reach out to. And another thing about communication, availability. Remember, communication is a two-way street. We have to make sure that we are available and that our target audience can contact us and ask questions about what we're doing. We're not just asking for people's donations and help. We also have to be able to explain how we are going to use their donations. Finally, I want stories that give us powerful emotions. We need to tell stories that touch people's hearts. Cold facts and statistics won't do it. Go out on the streets and find out why people are homeless. Find out what happened to them. And let's tell those stories to our audience. Okay, people, let's go to work.
When Anne Baker asked her family if they wanted to take part in a reality show, they all replied yes. However, after 2 months on the show, they have all changed their minds, especially 16-year-old daughter Lisa. The reality show involves living in a house like people did in the 19th century. That means only eating food, wearing clothes, and using things from the 19th century. A newspaper asked Lisa what she thought of 19th century life. She answered that it was very boring for 16-year-old girls. They cleaned houses, or got married, or both. Lisa also said she felt dirty all the time because of the smoke from the kitchen fire. Unsurprisingly, she has missed her modern life. Although she said she feels silly that things like her mobile phone are important to her. Despite that, she says the first thing that she will do when she leaves the house is check all the messages on her phone.
Hi, Ellen. I found most of the information about where uncontacted peoples live on the internet. Let's see. There are about 100 isolated tribes on the planet. At least that's what the experts think. And most of them live in Brazil, but others can be found in Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Papua New Guinea, and on the North Sentinel Island of the Andaman Islands, near India. Also, they know about us. I mean, the modern world. But basically, they have chosen to live separate from the modern world. They aren't doing it to make a point. In fact, they're actually interested in making contact, but are often frightened. They've had bad experiences in the past. You know, they've seen friends or family killed by criminals that have been hiding on their land, or the environment where they live has been destroyed, things like that. Anyway, most of these people learn hunting skills that are useful in the environment where they live, and they can move around easily because they also collect fruit and plants for food, and they don't have farms, which means they don't have to stay in one place. Those are some of the reasons why they have been able to stay out of contact. Okay, here's another message. I got most of the information about uncontacted peoples avoiding the modern world from Professor Sue Davids at the university. I also asked her what could be done to protect these people, and Professor Davids said there are organisations that try to protect them, but that there's also pressure to take their land for business reasons. She gave a positive example of the way the Indian government used to protect the Sentinelese people on the island of North Sentinel and stop anybody from visiting the island. Experts believe the Sentinelese have been alone there for 60,000 years and that visitors could give them diseases that we have treatment or vaccines for that would kill them. Anyway, it seems the Sentinelese know how to defend themselves, and they have attacked people who have tried to visit the island. People aren't allowed to visit the island, but can you believe that there are people who still try? Davids said that about 50% of a group of uncontacted people die because of contact with outsiders and the diseases they may be carrying. I mean, don't they care? Unbelievable!
So, we both agree that we want to volunteer. But which charity are we going to volunteer for? Personally, I think we should choose one that will be useful for our CVs. What do you reckon?
Well, I think the good thing about volunteering is contributing to a cause that you care about, something that you really want to help with.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. But I really want to be a teacher in the future. So I think volunteering at an after-school club for young teenagers could be a good option because it would look good on my CV and we'd learn new skills. What do you think?
I suppose so. But I don't know what I want to do in the future. And to be honest, I'm not sure I could control a big group of teenagers.
Okay, that's fine. Well, how about the second option? Visiting elderly people that can't get out of their houses. We would help them with their shopping and things like that. Those are really practical things that we can both do to help someone. And I think that's a good reason for volunteering, right? Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, it sounds great. And we would be helping elderly people to connect with the community. I really like that idea.
Exactly. Okay, maybe we could choose that one, but shall we consider the third option before deciding?
Right. Volunteering to clean up the local river once a week. Well, I think it could be a good option because we would make a difference to the community, wouldn't we?
I quite like the idea of that.
We would, but...
But what? What are you thinking?
Well, it's a difficult decision. They're all good causes. Which do you think is best?
Well, as you say, it's difficult. But I feel we'd be more useful helping elderly people. What you said about doing practical things for others is so true.
Yeah, and helping them to join the community is a good reason too.
Yeah, great. We've agreed then. Shall we go with that? Now, all we have to do is start on this application.
Hi guys, welcome to our vlog. And today, Max, what are you doing?
I'm looking for some trainers. I found an amazing offer, but the sale ends in 4, 3, 2...
Stop, Max. Stop it! It's a trick!
What are you getting at?
People have always used so-called sales to attract customers. And they often add that you can only get these discounts for a limited time. After all, no one wants to miss out on an amazing offer, do they?
No, they don't. And if you hadn't stopped me, I'd have got one.
Oh, come on, Max. Get real. Don't you think it's a bit weird that all these sales must end today? If you'd taken some time to look around, you probably would have found it wasn't a deal at all. Go ahead. Refresh the page.
Yep. The sales are over. But wait, the shoes are now even cheaper.
You see? That's how they get you. They have lots of tricks like that. Like playing calm and relaxing music. Or using colours like blues, greens and whites to make you feel at home. Or treating you like you're their best friend with their, "Oh, why don't you try it on? That looks so nice on you." Then it's sell, sell, sell. They don't care if you get into debt, and they won't listen if you make a complaint.
Okay, now I'm scared. But what do you do?
First of all, if they tell me I can get a discount, I always check. Is it really a discount? And to be honest, I rarely buy stuff in the sales. If I do, I always keep the receipt so I can get a refund if I need to. I always have a budget when I go shopping too. If it's over my budget, I don't buy it.
But what if it's a really big discount? I mean, these trainers are now £20 cheaper. But maybe I should look around?
Spot on, Max. If you look around, you might actually find a good offer, not just a sales trick.
No, wait. I don't have time. The sale ends in 2 minutes.
Just make sure you can cancel the order and send it back.
In the world of business, bad decisions can cost companies a lot of money, lose them lots of customers, and cause a lot of regret. In 1985, Coca-Cola did exactly that. The company decided to change its winning recipe and design and replace it with a new drink known as New Coke. This might sound like a strange idea, but at the time, Coca-Cola was in serious competition with Pepsi-Cola, whose Pepsi Generation advertisements had been really successful. Coca-Cola decided it needed to do something big. But not only did they start selling new Coke, they also stopped producing the original drink, the drink that was the most successful and most popular brand in the whole world. To people living in the USA, Coca-Cola was part of their history, their culture, and their identity, and suddenly it was gone. The public were very angry, and many people changed to Pepsi, which cost the company huge amounts of money. Less than 3 months later, Coca-Cola realized they had made a big mistake and started producing the original drink again, under the name Coca-Cola Classic. By 2002, New Coke was finished, and Coca-Cola Classic returned to being what it always was, Coca-Cola.
Continuing our series on money, today Jack and I are talking about how to be a smart shopper.
Yes, I think sometimes people don't know how many ways there are to save money when you shop these days.
I think it's because it's not always obvious, and some involve a bit of hard work or a change of habit.
Yes, you are right. So, Amy, do you want to start?
Sure. My first tip is a simple one. Use price comparison websites. They will help you know if you're getting a good deal or being ripped off.
If I had known that a few months ago, I'm sure I would have got a better price on my new laptop. Following on from that, don't be afraid to haggle for a price reduction. These days, it's possible to get a discount by asking for one. Just be polite, smile, and ask if they can offer a better price. But be prepared to abandon the deal and politely say no thank you if they can't.
Okay, next, use social media. It's a good idea to follow your favourite brands. They often post special offers and details of clearance sales on social media, or links to coupons you can use both in store and online.
My last tip is all about timing. In my opinion, I wouldn't rush out and buy the latest gizmo the moment it's in stock. Prices are always highest for new technology for the first few months. So be patient and remember that it will be cheaper in a few months' time. Also, think about buying out of season. What I mean is, buy your swimsuit in autumn and your winter coat at the start of spring. You will definitely find better offers.
Good point. Well, I think there are plenty of good ideas there. Feel free to post more on our social media pages. And happy shopping, guys!
So let's set up your savings plan. First of all, I'd like to go through your income each month. How much pocket money do you get from your parents?
About £40 a month, but I can also get more if I do chores at home.
And do you have a part-time job?
Yes, I work in a cafe on Saturdays. My wages are around £80 a month from that.
Okay, good. So that's an income of £120 a month. And what about your outgoings? Let's start with your purchases.
It's difficult to say, but it's possible that I spend about £20 a month.
Okay. And what about entertainment?
I usually go to the cinema about twice a month. My friends and I go for a burger most Saturdays, and then the occasional drink or snack. Around £50 a month, although it might be more.
Let's add that here. Finally, what about essential costs, like travel, public transport, sports, etc.?
It'll probably be another £30 per month.
Okay. And how much would you like to save? What's your goal?
I'd really like to save £500 for a holiday next year.
Okay. And what's your bank balance in your savings account at the moment?
It's £160.
How much interest do you get?
It's 2% per year.
Give me a moment. If you can give yourself a budget of £40 per month for entertainment, then you'll be able to afford to save £30 per month. And over a year, you'll have £360 plus your current balance. What do you think?
I'm sure that's possible.
Excellent!
Does anyone know what Bitcoin and tulips have in common? Let me explain. At the start of the 17th century, tulips were becoming popular in the Netherlands as more people enjoyed having the colourful flowers in their homes. Farmers then learned to grow more colourful flowers, and soon the prices of some unusual tulips started to go up. But then something strange happened. Rich Dutch people became interested, and they offered to buy bulbs from farmers. This was not because they wanted to grow tulips, though, but because they fancied making a profit from them. Early investors were successful. As more people kept buying, the prices increased quickly, and people were selling tulip bulbs for a lot more than the flowers were worth. Everyone was talking about tulips, and they were selling for the same price as a house. Eventually, the price of tulips fell really quickly when people were no longer prepared to pay such high prices. Does this sound familiar? Here's the lesson. When the price of something is not related to its value, but to what someone will pay for it, you're in trouble. People were no longer prepared to pay such a high price anymore, and they quickly tried to sell. This meant that the price dropped really quickly, and just like Bitcoin, a lot of people who invested in tulips lost everything.
We'd like to discuss our plans for the school party next month.
Yes, of course. The main thing for me is that everyone is safe and there is no damage to the school.
We understand. This is very important for us too. Would we be able to use the school hall, the dining hall and kitchen?
Well, I'm not sure about the kitchen. There's a lot of expensive equipment in there. It could be dangerous on your own.
What about if a member of staff was with us?
OK, provided that a member of the kitchen staff was in the kitchen at all times, I would be happy to let you use those areas. What about the time of the party?
We'd like to start at 7 p.m. and finish at midnight.
I'm afraid that's out of the question. It would need to finish at 11 p.m. at the latest.
That's fine. Would the school be able to give us a small budget to buy food and drink?
We could give you £100.
Would you consider giving us a bit more? If you could give us £150, we would be able to get a band to play and decorate the hall as well. We think it would really improve the atmosphere.
I think we can accept that.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck with organising everything.
A new shopping centre opened in town last year. It's not a very big town and there were already plenty of shops on the high street. Of course, a lot of those smaller independent businesses are now in difficulties. There are so many empty stores in the high street now, and the shopping centre is bringing more traffic into town. That means more problems with parking and, of course, more air pollution. On the other hand, I can understand why some people like it, especially teenagers. It's a great place to hang out with all the new cafes and restaurants.
I'm a huge fan of charity and second-hand shops. I'm always finding interesting and unusual clothes, stuff that you just wouldn't find in big stores. I love dressing up when I go out. It's all part of the fun. It's important to me to be an individual, so buying something a bit different is really important. That's why charity shops are perfect for me. I can browse in them for hours. I just love the ones in my neighbourhood, and they're ideal if you don't have a lot of money to spend.
There are lots of things that annoy me about shopping. I think the thing I hate most is that companies are always trying to make you buy things you don't really need. There are adverts everywhere nowadays, on TV, in magazines, on public transport, and, of course, on social media. You just can't get away from them. They're always trying to persuade you that you'd be a happier or better person if you bought their product. I don't understand why people believe it. It's just clever advertising, I suppose, with lots of powerful and attractive images. There's a whole psychology to it, but it doesn't convince me to spend my money.
I can see why online shopping is so popular these days. It's a lot more convenient for people who can't or don't want to get to the shops. But personally, I'd much rather talk to someone face to face. That's why I try to buy at my local shops if possible. I think you get better service and you can see what you're buying. That's especially true for food. I love cooking, but I don't want to buy a huge bag of vegetables. They're usually wrapped in too much plastic, and you have to buy far more than you need. I always end up throwing things away, which is terrible. It's such a waste.
As a student, I have to live on a budget. I can't afford to go out much, so I don't need many clothes. Lots of people buy something and only wear it once, just so they can keep up with fashion. I don't understand that at all. I think it's better to pay more for something and keep it. If things are well made, they should last for years. Too much choice isn't always a good thing. Some of my friends buy clothes online, but they order about 6 different colours of the same item, then send some back. That means more packaging, more deliveries, and more vehicles on the road. It can't be good.